The Friday Rugby Preview with Stuart Cameron.
Hello and welcome to the Friday Rugby Preview. Robin Purdie joining me this week, and the game everyone is talking about is, of course, the Inter-District Championship tomorrow between Caledonia Reds and the South. It's taking place at Inverness, and we'll be devoting most of the programme to that. So, Robin, bring us just up to speed for those who have been away for the last 3 weeks on the Inter-District Championship. Tell us where we are, and in particular, where the South is.
Well, Stuart, the South are top of the pile as it stands. 2 wins from 2. No bonus points. They've scored 3 tries in each of the games. So they sit on 8 points at the moment. Edinburgh sit tucked in just behind them on 7 points. Glasgow in the West on 6 points. And Cali bring up the rear on 3 points. Now, Cali, they're the only team that can't win the title, but of course they're the current champions, and they're a proud region, and they've done an awful lot of good work to get this thing back up and running. So, let's not be thinking that the South are going to go up there and experience a cakewalk. That's the first thing I say. So Cali can't win, but the other 3 teams obviously can. But the South have the luxury of not needing a bonus point win. They just need a win, because I believe it's come out this week that if 2 teams finish on the same amount of points at the top of the table, then it goes to a head-to-head rather than points difference. So the South can win with 4 points, and Edinburgh can finish joint top with them on 12 points, but the South will win by virtue of the fact that they beat Edinburgh at Musselburgh, and I think that's a potted overview of how it all stands.
That's very good, actually. Very, very impressed with
and
that.
I'll breathe now.
But the interesting thing, of course, is, it has been so close that South could actually be bottom at the moment and Cali could be top. It was just literally the last couple of seconds of all the games that have been played have been turned on their head.
That's it. We've all said from the get-go that it's hard to see any cricket scores in any of the games now. Because I'm tragic, I went to the trouble today of totting up the total points for winning teams against the total points for losing teams, and it's 114, 105. Wow. And there's been 4 games. There's 9 points between 4 games, which is ridiculous when you see it. But it shows the quality of the tournament for me. It's been a brilliant tournament in that it's close. It's impossible to tell what's going to happen in any of the games. And like I say, if supporters think that the South are going to traipse away up there and be on the winning end of a cakewalk, then that's not going to be the case, because Cali are a good outfit, and that's been shown by the fact, they've lost 1 game by a point and 1 game by 3 points or 4 points or something like that, but I think it was late losses as well. They've led in those 2 games, so decent outfit.
Well, they went to Edinburgh last week. They were leading 33, I think it was 33 to 20, and then 2 late converted tries for Edinburgh, and it made it 34-33, and that was the end of Caledonia Reds effectively. But we could be looking at something completely different.
Oh, fine margins, the finest of margins. I can't recall a rugby competition at this sort of level of any kind where it's so close between all the 4 teams. There's no standout team. There's nobody cut adrift at the bottom. It's been great as a spectacle because of the closeness of it all.
And of course, a lot of people will be thinking, well, Caledonia, Reds, that region, their best clubs are like Gordonians, Aberdeen Grammar, Highland, Dundee. They're actually choosing their squad from people who originated in Caledonia. So you've got the likes of DJ Innes from Curry and other people like that. So they're no mugs at all.
Oh no, not at all. And that's to their great credit that they have the pool. The region has the pool that these players that now play for the Currys and the Heriots and wherever they play, rather than play for Edinburgh or Glasgow or whoever, they want to go back and play from the region from which they originate. And you look at some of the names there: Beckett from Curry, Innes, DJ Innes, as you mentioned, from Curry, James McCaig, the winger from Curry. These are proven top of the Premiership operators. Malachi Keogh and Ali Johnson, 2 forwards from Heriots in there. Keogh's got Super 6 experience. And Harry Russell, the scrum half, the captain, brother of Finn, but he's there on his own merit. He's a damn good player. Now, he plays for Falkirk, but don't anybody be fooled by that. This is a guy that's played a bit of Super Rugby for Stirling Wolves. really good player, and yeah, they've got top operators, and they are not a pushover by any stretch of the imagination. And if they nicked a narrow win, it certainly wouldn't be a surprise to me.
Well, we were really looking forward to last week's game, and it looked quite comfortable up at half-time. They had about an 11-point lead, I think it was 8-point lead, over Glasgow. It was at Poynter Park. There was a big crowd there, approaching crowd. 2,000. Yeah. Fantastic atmosphere. The big problem, I think, for the South, you look on the scorecard, they won the try-count 3-1, but 6 penalties. And when you give kickable penalties to the great Colin Sturgeon of Mar, who didn't miss all day, even from the touchline, the conversion, a wonderful banana kick. You may have seen it on YouTube. That must come in as a bit of a concern.
You want to be keeping your penalty count as low as possible, but when you're facing a kicker of the quality of Sturgeon, as you mentioned, it was a virtuoso kicking performance from the tee by him. It was first class. He banged over everything that was put his way, and there weren't too many sitters either. They were far out, they were into the wind, they were from the touchline. I thought a couple of the decisions that led to the penalties that were kicked were borderline. But yeah, it's something that the South will need to keep an eye on. But yeah, I think the South will be really, really pleased and really enthused by the fact that they've really gutsed it out over the last 2 weeks. They've been in losing positions, one of which was at half time. They looked dead and buried to me in the first game, and last week they were in a losing position with not long to go as well, and they've dug out victories. They've gone to the well, they've dug out victories, they've made brilliant substitutions at brilliant times, and if that's a management stroke head coach thing, then brilliant. The props that came on when they came on last week, the Kelso props, that changed the game.
Yeah, it was a defensive scrum, wasn't it? And, they just rolled them away.
Oh, that's right. And there was Dale mentioned it, kind of really brought it to attention in commentary as well. It was a scrum that had stemmed from Glasgow possession on the Glasgow line, and it was great to see for me, because it was that thing where they'd made a wee bit of a caterpillar, the forwards, and the scrum half was at the back, adjusting his feet, getting ready to box kick it, taking ages, and the referee had told him, use it. And lo and behold, whistle goes, he awards a scrum to the South because he never used it. From the resulting scrum, they got 5 metres out, they got a pushover try, Jay Linton. That changed the game, but it was that scrum, it was those props that came on and made such a big difference.
Now, 2 different South teams really that we've seen so far, the 2 matches, Edinburgh and Glasgow, and I suppose this is the thing, isn't it? You've got different opposition, you've got different conditions. Now we're on to a 3G pitch as well, and the boys have been training at the Greenyards and also at the Volunteer Park in Hawick to get used to the 3G, and it is a specialist thing, isn't it, for a lot of people?
Some players like it, some players hate it. I think it can help to lead to a better game for the viewer. I wouldn't fancy playing on it, to be honest. I've played football a few times on the Greenyards, and I wouldn't fancy playing rugby on that, to be honest. But it is what it is. But yeah, I think there's an interesting call for the South for me, is that from the outside looking in, probably one of the key men on that type of pitch is your 10. Because of the kicking and knowing how to kick it slightly differently to benefit for the bounce of the ball, and probably more chance of a 50-22 on that surface and all that kind of stuff. But the South have reverted back to a 10 that doesn't play his home team rugby on that surface, and left out Struan Hutchison, who plays on it every other week. So that was quite an interesting call for me, given the surface that they're going to be playing. Yeah,
it's a first-time pairing, in fact, for Stars, isn't it? Because Douglas Crawford, who has played on the 3G pitch, obviously, because he's Melrose, is paired up with Aaron McComb from Selkirk. But the team, certainly the forwards are very similar. It's very much a Hawick-heavy pack. Once again, the only slight difference is Connor Sutherland has come in to take the place of Dalton Redpath, who's unavailable for tomorrow, so still retaining that Hawick. And Bruce McNeil off the bench, he's actually going to be starting in the back row. You've also got Donald Crawford, who's another 3G specialist from Melrose, who's been past fit. He comes in for Dwayne Patterson. So Archie Barber is out, and you've got Josh Welsh come back in again. A team there which I think, after seeing them play 2 matches, I think this is the one where they're really going to click.
You'd think so, but they're against stern opposition. But yeah, there has been a few changes, some of which will have been forced, others are tactical. You're right about Don Crawford on that surface. He's a top of the ground man. He's used to it. He's got a lovely arcing break. I've seen it so many times on that kind of surface for Melrose. Doug Crawford, another live wire top of the ground player, used to the surface. Sutherland, Dalton Redpath's not available, which is a blow. I awarded him man of the match last week, so it stands to reason that I think that's a blow. But Connor Sutherland moves up from the back row to the middle row. He is in the team for me somewhere because of his defensive prowess and how hard he hits. And yeah, Bruce McNeil coming back in, I mean, that's no hardship either, let's be honest. So, and you've got these experienced campaigners on the bench to come on at the right time and change things or add impact. That's what the South have been. The South subs have been good at, bringing impact, bringing energy, as they tend to say nowadays. And yeah, it's got a good look about it. And yeah, they can go up there in the best of fettle, given what they've been through the last couple of weeks, given where they stand on the table, and given the team that's on the team sheet.
Well, let's bring in Matty Douglas at this point, because I went down to interview him at the Green Yards on Tuesday night and found him in a quietly confident mood. Well, Matty, 2 from 2. As you know yourself as a coach, it could easily have been the other way around. You could be at the bottom of the table yourself, but it's not. And all you need to do is win without a bonus point.
Yeah, I think looking at Saturday past first, I thought first half really good, took our opportunities, and to be fair, probably a bit of confident team talk at half time. I really did feel if we scored next and got a try on the board that we would crack them, but credit to Glasgow, but we fought to the end. We've showed a bit of character with the bench coming on to get us a penalty for Kirk to step up, and have every confidence in what Kirk does. So no, really good with that, and it's been made a bit easier with SRU confirming that we, it goes down to head if the points are the same. So we just need to go to Inverness and win, and it's now trying to find a way to crack a very good Cali side.
2 completely different matches and 2 completely different teams really that stepped up, and this third challenge is another challenge again. So you've got to kind of look at who's good at the 3G.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think we've got a couple of Melrose boys in around the squad that are used to 3G, and obviously a few Highland boys in the Cali side. But look, I think on the whole it'll be a challenge for both sides. But Cali again are a different opposition to Edinburgh and Glasgow. They bring different threats, and I really like the style they play. They'll run for anywhere. They'll look to try and exploit us maybe on the wide channels. And look, I'll probably say that looking at how they won the game up at GHA last season. So we know what's coming, and for us as coaches, we've tried to look at a few things to combat that, and we'll be taking as strong a squad as possible. It'll be, I think it'll come down to who takes their opportunities and deals with the pressure best on the day.
A sense of deja vu, isn't there? Because this time last year at Braidholme it was Cali Reds again, and it was for the championship effectively. We've got the same situation here now. Cali obviously can't win, the only team who can't, but you will certainly have that unfinished business in the back of your mind.
There definitely is. Obviously last season up at GHA we just didn't really get into the game at all, and to be fair again, probably to the boys, the character, I think we scored 2 or 3 tries. There was a Badenhorst break down the touchline, and Dodsey missed that kick at the end, but look, these things happen, and I think we just didn't really give our best that day, and that's probably been a little bit of driver through the championship that if we got to this stage we really want to finish on a high, and I think looking at character-wise, we've probably won the last couple of games on that, bits and pieces of performance, and it's now as coaches for us to try and mould it together and get that that ultimate performance to get a win at Inverness. You've
changed places now. We're at the Green Yards because of the 3G pitch, obviously, so you've got a couple of nights to get things rolling, and another opportunity for players to put the hand up.
Yeah, there is, and look, it's obviously hard. We've had boys drop out the squad through injury, boys coming in, and again tonight, and then we're at Hawick 3G on Thursday, just again to get another session on there, and look, there's places up for grabs this weekend. There's no guarantee that the boys who played last Saturday are in. The players they know that even sessions they'll have to work extremely hard, because we've got a lot of players who haven't had an opportunity yet, and I know they're biting for it, and it's trying to see what sort of squad we take and who's available injury wise. But again, tonight will go a long way in the squad that travels to Inverness.
Tonight is quite a unique little occasion as well, in a way, because you've got the Southern Knights on the pitch taking on the South. There's loads of people, including myself, who would have loved to have seen the South take on the Southern Knights. I know it's just a little bounce training match, but quite nice to see all the same.
Yeah, it is, and when we came here, I know Chegg was very keen to get us to have a little bit of session, or as much as we could, and I think I'm a bit buzzing for it, to be honest, just to see where we're at. It's all right training against each other, live set piece and having been able to run against each other, but I think tonight it'll give us an idea, little things that we want to tweak and see the detail, but again for the Knights to get a bit of opposition before they go into their run of games. So yeah, look, even though it's a bounce game, it's quite good to come down and get an opposition like the Knights to run against.
It's always interesting as well to talk to the players themselves and find out who likes the 3G, who doesn't. I know for a fact there's a few in the squad who absolutely hate the 3G for injury reasons and all sorts of kinds of things. Then you talk to some of the backs who love this surface. So it is going to be an interesting blend, isn't it, that you take up there and eventually choose your team? Yeah,
I think it does. It has to come into it. Obviously there's a lot of boys who've played their season on the 3G here at Melrose, and that sort of experience comes into it. But for me, I think, yes, fair enough the pitch, but our job doesn't change. It might be a bit quicker, it might, the skill set will be better, but in terms of the way we want to play, we need to find a way to test Cali, we need to find a way to beat Cali, because I know they'll have a big following at Inverness, and again, they've narrowly, I think all the games have all been about a point or 2 points in the last 2 weeks, so they'll have a point to prove. They're defending champions, they'll come out, they'll be hurting. They're a side who, I know the head coach as well, and they take this very seriously, and they'll be disappointed. So I'm expecting a massive backlash this weekend, and it's how we win on that surface. We're not used to it, but we'll prepare for it, and I've no question that these boys will be up to the task if us as coaches get the build-up right.
Just finally, what does this mean to you to go up there and win, make it 3 out of 3, and the championship?
It means a lot. Being involved last season showed those glimpses of what it meant to the players and obviously the region, and then probably Saturday past showed again what it meant to the region, the support we had and what the players are trying to achieve. Personally, it's a massive accolade and opportunity I've been given by the South, and I just feel we've went 2 for 2, and to win it would be an icing on the cake for the season, and I do think that this will go a long way in these players' futures as well. That's the big part of it, that there has been hopefully confirmation that a club 15 will return, and again it has to go on the balance of a championship. So yeah, there's a couple of things. Obviously personally, I really want to win it. It's something that means a lot to us, but then on the flip side, as players, this is a real stepping stone for this new Premiership that's coming along as well.
Interesting thoughts from Matty Douglas there, and as we've said, it's in their hands now.
It is indeed. It's not going to be easy, as we keep saying, but as I mentioned before, they can go up there and they can go up there in the best of health. I think they'll be already en route up there. They're heading up today, and I think that's a good move. It's a long trek to go on a Saturday morning, so I think that's definitely a good move tonight. So they'll get a good night's kip up there, get a bit of Highland hospitality.
We're not though. We're going up tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning, early start, bit of a road trip for us. But no, they've nothing. While it's going to be a stern test, they've nothing to fear. They're 2 from 2.
Well, a big fan of the South and the Inter-District Championship is Richie Gray, the former head coach of Gala, and of course has gone on to great things in the world of rugby as an expert on the contact area of the game. And he spoke a few days ago to Hugh Brown.
You were actually selected for the South, but sadly you didn't play because you got an injury, didn't you?
You know what, it's funny, Hugh, I always get asked, is there any regrets you've ever had in your rugby? And I don't have many. I've thoroughly enjoyed what happened. As a player, you played and you did what you had to do. But the one regret I do have is I was meant to captain the South. I was captain in Gala and won the Border League, and Nick Behill was the team manager then, and had said, listen, would you mind captaining the South? And it was going to be a huge honour for me because my father had coached the South. I'd been brought up in the South, and I went away and tore my blooming knee ligaments in that last game of the season, and I never got the chance to play for them. So my district rugby was always North and Midlands. Caledonia I played for. I never actually represented the South because I was away working up north and whatever. So yeah, that's my one regret in rugby. As a player, I'd love to have played for the South.
But you must be delighted that this Inter-District Championship is back with a bang, and this year particularly with them playing 3 games. Yeah,
I think obviously you never played for the South, but you ended up coaching them. I was the last ever coach of the South team before it then went into pro rugby, myself and Gary Parker. But to answer your question, Hugh, I'm delighted it's back, and I think I still can't work out, and I'm obviously out the country quite a lot, so you've got to watch what you say. If you're not, I'm always a great believer, there's great putting forward your point, but you've really got to be involved in it if you want to kind of make a difference. But they should never have gone away from this format, right? And Super 6 was there. For me personally, there was never enough players to fill all the 6 teams. And then when you started looking at the age group of player that was playing in that, no disrespect to those guys, but it wasn't set up for what it was for. You already had 4 district teams. The key thing is supporters used to love going to watch, So you've got the South, you had the North and Midlands Caledonia as they're called now, Glasgow and Edinburgh, and don't forget the Exiles as well, which is still, there's still a lot of young players come from that area. So I'm just delighted to see it back. It's great when you look around Kelso, Poinder today, there's a big crowd here already. We've still got another 10 minutes to go to kick-off. So it just shows you that this area, the south of Scotland, absolutely is missing something that they can all get behind. They all go and watch their clubs, but they're missing something that brings us together collectively. And down the stairs, we've had a great, hour and a half, 2 hours, where all the old players are there, guys that you've played with, and it's just a great catch-up. So, no, I'm just delighted to see it back.
And we had 1,500 at Netherdale last year on a Tuesday evening. Here on a Saturday afternoon, we're expecting somewhere around about 2,000, which is great for this match, and will really give the South a buzz, won't it?
It does, and I think, you could... Fans and supporters will vote with their feet. If they want to come and support something, they will. And I think the key is that, because you've got a sprinkling of players from all the border teams, there's a bit of sort of connection to come and watch this and watch your player play for the district team. So, no, I've always been a massive backer of district rugby. I don't know why it ever left, to be honest. And obviously it went pro, but you can still have it in the state that we see it now, and to be honest, there should be a Scottish amateur international team back as well, because you must, as players, you must aspire to the next level. So if you've not got something to aspire to, you're then just stuck at your club. So at least now club, you've got the district team to look forward to. The district team should really go into the amateur international team, get that back, and then you've got a pathway for players that are just as keen as anybody else to show where they can go, and then you never know what comes out of that. There's always late developers, and you can't close the door, especially in a country our size that's not huge.
So you believe there should be a Club Scotland side then?
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, there should always be that focus so that the club amateur player has got something to aspire to. The minute you take aspiration levels away, you're then just stuck with nothing really to train and play for apart from just being at your club. And there's always players that want to get better, there's always players that want to be tested, and also you might find that there's a little bit of talent there that you maybe missed. Talent does get missed, and the only way you'll find out if a youngster's talented is if he meets talent head on every week.
The coaches on the sides, Matty Douglas for the South, he's chosen 7 Hoyk players of his own team that he coaches just now, has coached up until this week actually.
Yep.
And as far as Kenny Diffenthal is concerned, 11 Mar players on the side. Is it not too easy for the coaches to pick players that they actually know and know how they play?
Well, it depends. I think this year's maybe slightly different because it's the start of it again, so you want to try and have a sort of core. I know, having been coaching for a long time, you must try and have a core in your team that will maybe make it a little bit easier, because they've just been brought together very quickly, these sides. But again, what you'll see at the moment is that ideally you want to try and have a spread of players from all the clubs, but the key is you pick the best players. So if the best players are in one club, then they all go to the district team. It's as simple as that, because you don't want to use this as a sort of, well, we'll pick that player to keep that club happy, and this player, it should never be like that. This is the next level, so you pick the best players that are available for this district team.
And your own involvement, because your company GSI are in fact one of the shirt sponsors, aren't they?
Yeah, I've been involved. To be honest, I've sponsored the South. I started with the Sevens about 3 or 4 years ago, and it just always means a lot to me. So I always wanted to make sure that we could do something to help the young players, and put some financial kind of help back into it, because at the moment it's been running a really tight budget, and there's buses to pay for, and there's everything else that all the clubs have got to deal with. So I'm just delighted to help out when I can, and I'm proud to have the name on the front of the jersey, the South jersey. I grew up with, my father coached them, so to have the name on the front of that jersey is great. One
of the difficulties I think for the Inter-District Championship is where it slots into the season, because there's so many games on between all the different things that are going to include in the Six Nations and of course club rugby itself. Where do you think it should fit into the season?
Yeah, it's a good call, and to be honest, I don't know that answer, because I'm obviously in and out the country quite a bit. So, but I think what it looks to do is, if it's going to be that important, then it has to find a place that suits it. I've always been clubs, because that's the first place you'll ever take your son and your daughter when they want to start playing. So the clubs have got to be strong, and then club it goes to district. You might find maybe put it back to the old time. It used to always be in and around Christmas, and it may be a time, but if it's that important and it's going to be in this sort of progression for players going forward, then you've got to find a place for it, whether that be a one-off game, one game against each, or it's a home and away, which then obviously adds more fixtures. So, I think that's something that the powers that be have to decide. But if there's a demand for it, you've got to try and find a place in the calendar for it.
Well, he's some man, is Richie Gray. He really does think that district rugby is the way forward as well.
Hugely impressive individual. What he's, just how he comes across, everything that he's achieved, rugby-wise, but certainly in a business, in wider rugby from a business perspective, what he's invented. Look at everywhere he's been. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Miami Dolphins. Speed dial. He's on speed dial with some of the biggest companies.
Yeah, he is, and it seems to be everywhere bar here wants to know his name. What he's achieved is ridiculous, and all credit to him.
And he's always been a district man. We've always heard him in interviews, say, well, why on earth did they get rid of it? Because, and obviously not a Super 6 fan or a Super Series fan either, because he feels that district rugby is the way forward. We were talking about earlier as well that the buy-in from not just the players but the punters as well. They want to see district rugby, don't they?
Well, if Kelso on Saturday passed as anything to go by, then they most certainly do. It was a brilliant occasion, massive crowd packed round Poinder there. It was like a district game that I remember from the old days.
Yeah.
The early to mid 90s through the 90s. That's how I remember it now. That's not how it was the previous week at Musselburgh, sadly, but it certainly was how it was. So yeah, there seems to be absolute buy-in, certainly down this neck of the woods anyway.
Yeah, big appetite, and of course the club internationals, which hopefully looks like it'll be Ireland, possibly home and away, very much on the cards next season. And again, that's what we were talking to Conor Bickerstaff afterwards, and he said he's an older player. He doesn't want to go on to pro rugby necessarily himself, because that ship has sailed, and he just wants to play rugby at this level. And a club international, which he's had of course before, is kind of the pinnacle for a lot of the players.
Oh, definitely. And we spoke on the podcast a few weeks ago, the one about the kind of rejigging of the club game in Scotland, if you like, when the Super 6 was disbanded. And yeah, I'm all for that. If the club game is going to be the club game and it's not part of the pathway, then absolutely there should be stuff for players still to aim for. And it's the district championship, and that effectively then becomes a national trial for a club international, 1 or 2 a season, then I'm absolutely all for it, and I'm absolutely all for going to Dublin if we're going to cover it as well.
What a fantastic idea. Well, finally today, some local fixtures tomorrow. Langham against Broughton in East League 1. Langham finally get to finish their league season. January the 27th was their last fixture, and it's come down to April the 6th, which is bizarre.
Ridiculous.
Absolutely bizarre. And of course April the 27th even for Forrester against Broughton still to come. That is absolutely crazy. I don't know why or how it's happened, but getting the lads back together again after almost 2 months for one match is extraordinary.
Yeah. I was going to say all credit to the Langham lads that are strapping their boots up tomorrow for that game. I would have been packed up by now, but yeah, the game 3 weeks or 4 weeks down the track, keeping boys' interest maintained for that must be quite a challenge.
It certainly is. And Hoyt Quinns are going to be playing Dalkeith in East League 2, and there's a Border League match tomorrow as well, Gala against Kelso, and of course Gala could still actually get at the top.
Mathematically, yes, they can, and that keeps the competition alive. The smart money, of course, is still on Hoyt to emerge victorious. But yeah, Gala still in with a shout.
So that's your roundup for today. We're on air, of course, tomorrow at 2:30, right the way through until 5 o'clock for a 2.5 hour feast of club rugby. And you can tune in at rugbyradio.co.uk or, of course, bordersrugby.net, whatever floats your boat. Full commentary of Caledonia Reds versus the South from Inverness with Robin and Dale Clancy in the commentary box. We can't wait for it. Hope you can join us tomorrow. But for now, from Robin and me, a very good night.